But here we didn't prepare that, so we are just using
The wheel finally began to turn.
powder to prevent.
In an unfamiliar work environment, an Onggi potter picked up a lump of clay.
The vessel sticking to the wheel after the manufacturing.
There was a strange tension in the room. The NCECA Annual Conference.
Please try to remember
U.S. ceramic arts educators have gathered to watch the making of Onggi. Clay was added here, pounded there. Before long, the vessel grew to a substantial height. In no time, a large Onggi stood before them. In just 2 hours, a lump of clay had turned into a huge vessel over 1 meter tall. It was awe-inspiring.
I was amazed at his professional technique and his like a dance to watch him. It was like watching a dance. All you need is music, and watching him, it would be like an opera. I was so touched.
I found it difficult to do because of the rhythm of paddling, but I like to make large jars, and so I've tried these methods because it's fascinating to...
People became captivated by Korea's Onggi and its production process. Just what is it about Onggi that is so mesmerizing?
Yeah, he's back too.
Onggi, the world's simplest and largest vessel. We explore the allure and secrets of Korean Onggi. Onggi village in Mount Wego, Uljugun, in the city of Ulsan. It is Korea's only remaining Onggi village. Onggi production is in progress. A clay coil rests on the Onggi potter's shoulders. The potter builds the vessel wall by pressing and twisting the clay. This is the so-called coil method. The vessel is shaped by hitting the exterior with a paddle and the interior with an anvil. This is called paddling. There is something strange hanging inside the Onggi. It's a container filled with burning charcoal. The contraption dries the vessel wall in production, preventing it from collapsing. Finally, the basic structure of the Onggi has come into shape. The surface is smoothed using a scraper. Once the rim of the mouth has been formed and the lower part is smoothened, the Onggi is complete. Cotton cloth is used to move the finished vessel. Two men work together to lift the Onggi. Although not fully dry, the Onggi does not collapse midway. It's a special technique unique to Koreans. With porcelain, The glazing comes after the first firing, but because onggi is only fired once, glaze is applied after about 5 days of drying. Even a large jar can easily be lifted and glazed without a hoist. Some rubbing is all that is needed to even out the glaze. And now, the final touch. The art lies in the strokes rather than the designs they create. This is how designs particular to onggi are created. The only remaining step is the firing. Moving the onggi into the kiln is called stacking. The secret is placing the larger ones on the inside and working outwards. The onggi leaves human hands and is left in the care of Mother Nature. Finally, the kiln fire is lit. At first, the fire is kept low to remove the moisture and cool air inside the kiln. The onggi inside the kiln will be covered in soot, and that will later be removed. The fire keeps growing. The flames have grown large, bearing no resemblance to the gentle flame seen earlier. When the onggi truly begin to bake, the temperature inside the kiln reaches up to 1,100 degrees Celsius. The final step in the firing process is called window firing. The fire is fed through firing holes on either side of the kiln. It's an all-night job. This process melts the glaze and fully bakes the onggi. When the process is done, a brick is plugged into each hole and clay is plastered over it to prevent the inflow of air. Three days after the kiln has been left to cool, it is carefully reopened. A lump of clay has become an onggi, the brown earthenware, only after enduring a full 10 days in the fire.
우리 옛날에 선인들이 그 옹기를 굽던 그 방식대로 변함없이 그대로 가야만이 한국 옹기는 바로 뭡니까? 한국 옹기 특징은 발효, 숙성, 신선도입니다. 이걸 유지하기 위해서는 그 전통 방법이 가장 좋은 방법.
Gyeonggi-do, where the World Ceramic Biennial is held, is the undisputed ceramics capital. Ceramics is the city's key design motif. An Onggi workshop in Yeoju. The region's onggi have wider mouths and sleeker midsections than their southern counterparts. The most noticeable trait is that the long clay coils are twisted. This is different from the clay coils of Gyeongsang-do and Chungcheong-do, where plain clay coils are used. The method of building the body of the vessel is also different. In Gyeongsang-do, the potter works off the coil on his shoulder. Here, the coils are simply stacked one on top of each other to make the wall. Unless making a very large onggi, this is a lot faster.
우리는 이거 배도 안 나오지. 그러니까 그냥 올려놓고 찌그러들지 않고 더 빨라요 이게. 이게 이렇게 동그랗게 올려놓고 빠르고 둘러미고 하는 거 시간이 더 걸려요. 차이가 많이 해요. 하루 일을 하려면 뭐 하나나 둘은 차이가 나요. 그게 하는 것도.
A seaside village in Ganjin-gun, Jeollanam-do. Most of the locals make their living by catching arc shells and short-necked clams. Until the mid-70s, the village used to be a famous Onggi village. It had 4 large kilns and was frequented by 40 Onggi trading ships. But now, the broken shards of Onggi lying on the beach are the only testament to its past.
그때는 제주도가 온 거 없고 그때 이제 나이는 거시기 이제 그물 그 거시기가 플라팅이 없게 줄래. 예? 그때 항아리 여기서 고어 갖고 굴이 여기 니창 니겠어 니게 이제 다 뜯어보니 이제 없죠 다. 그때는 여기서 고어 갖고 배를 이제 싣고 나가지 한 배씩 싣고 해요.
Although they are better known for their celadon porcelain, there is an Onggi workshop that remains standing. So, how do they make Onggi in Jeollado? An Onggi potter is beating a lump of clay against the floor. After several repetitions, a large clay slab is formed. Here, this large slab is called panjang, meaning a board. The Onggi production prep work is complete once several slabs have been made. The next step is quick. The slabs are placed erect and then connected to form the vessel wall. This technique of collecting the panjang to make onggi is called the slab method. The work can be done very quickly using this method.
저희는 보다시피 쳇바퀴 타름이라고 하는데 바닥에다 놓고 이렇게 넓적하니 쳐서 넓적한 쳇바퀴처럼 만들어 가지고 붙이면서 만든 그 기법이고.
Somewhat isolated from the mainland, Jeju Island has preserved its unique way of life. Jeju Island has its own distinct onggi. Jeju Hobok, which women use to carry water, is the quintessential Jeju onggi. Jeju onggi are very different from their mainland counterparts. The key reason is the soil. Jeju onggi are made from very porous volcanic sand. Thus, making onggi here requires an additional step, which is beating the sand with a stick. To make hobok, panjang are connected, as in Jeollado. The wall is also evened out by paddling. Its mouth is made to resemble that of a liquor bottle because it is used to carry water. Once the hobok is complete, unique designs are etched onto the surface. A bamboo scraper is placed against the surface. The scraper makes a sound as it etches vertical patterns onto the onggi. On the mainland, onggi are dried for about 15 days. But in Jeju Island, they are fired after over 10 months of drying. No glaze is applied. Jeju Onggi kilns are rare, even by global standards. Unlike regular kilns, they are built with stones. Basalt, created by volcanoes, is highly fire resistant. Jeju Onggi is born after about 7 to 10 days in the kiln. Thus, Jeju's distinctive tradition is carried on as its soil meets its winds, rocks, and fire. A rural village in the winter. In order to make fermented seasoning pastes, the jars are sterilized with burning hay. The fermented soybean blocks have been naturally and thoroughly fermented over the winter. The fermented soybean blocks are placed one atop another inside a large onggi. The blocks are pressed down using a bamboo stick to prevent them from floating up when brine is poured in. While there are regional variations, the brine's water-to-salt ratio is usually 10:3. A straw rope is tied around the mouth of the jar to prevent insects from getting in. Charcoal and red peppers keep various germs and bacteria at bay. They are also thought to ward off evil spirits. Once the lid is placed on top, the process is complete. The rest is up to the onggi and Mother Nature. These onggi protect the seasoning pastes from winter snowstorms and nurture the pastes into maturity. Even in a harsh winter, these onggi assist with the natural activities of microorganisms. We looked at an onggi with an electron microscope. Magnified 100 times, the cross-section of onggi shows countless pores of various sizes. These pores are larger than air particles, but smaller than water particles. Because of these microscopic pores, onggi can let air in to help microorganisms with their fermentation activities. However, onggi can keep the water out because its pores are smaller than water particles. It's the same principle as that of Gore-Tex, a high-tech fiber.
아주 미세한 기공들이 있어가지고 그 속에 발효가스는 자연적으로 밖으로 배출이 되고 외부의 빗물이나 먼지 이런 것들은 바로 그 옹기 겉면에 엉키게 돼요. 그러니까 어머니나 할머니들이 아주 부지런한 어머니나 할머니들이 옹기가 땀 흘린다고 닦고 아침 저녁으로 닦아주고 햇빛 받을 수 있.
Nevertheless, Onggi has not been an exception to the mass production wave of the post-industrial revolution era. It is now commonplace to see Onggi being fired in gas kilns rather than in traditional wooden ones. Firing Onggi in gas kilns is easier and more reliable, so Onggi manufacturers prefer gas kilns over traditional kilns. Firing is not the only thing that has changed. Onggi are no longer made by hand, but churned out by machines. A lump of clay is dropped into a plaster mold. The upper mold is placed on top, and the wheel is made to turn. The two halves are connected this way. Several hundred Onggi jars of diverse sizes are produced in the wink of an eye. The Onggi are left to dry in their plaster molds for about half a day to a full day. The Onggi are flipped over once so that they dry evenly. A perfectly shaped Onggi emerges when the plaster mold is removed. However, human hands are needed for the finishing touches. The Onggi potter makes the rim of the mouth, smooths the vessel wall, and most importantly, evens out the adjoining area of the two halves. When we compare the traditional and modern production methods, it is estimated that the difference is over tenfold in terms of production volume. Mass production has also brought changes to the way Onggi are distributed. Wholesalers have managed to secure a steady supply of Onggi, as hundreds of Onggi can be produced in 1 to 2 days.
규격화된 제품 생산이 가능하다는 장점이 있기 때문에 저희들은 대량 생산 체제를 유지를 하고 있죠. 그리고 전국에 있는 대리점들한테 문제없이 제품을 공급을 하기 위해서는 대량 생산 체제를 유지할 수밖에 없습니다.
However, there is a major limitation to the mass production system. They can only make Onggi of up to a certain size. The tallest they can make is 61.6 centimeters. To make larger Onggi, the plaster molds also need to be large, but large plaster molds are too heavy to work with.
스코틀러가 할 수 있는 거는 큰 거는 못 하고 한 물량으로 한 2말, 최고 큰 게 한 2말 정도 되는 거는 스코틀을 하고 뭐 한 2말 이상 되는 거는 전부 다 수작업 해야 돼요. 왜냐면 스코틀로 하면은 스코틀 자체도 무겁고 수작업 사람이 들어가지고 그 형태를 내가 찍어야 되거든요. 그래서 사람이 혼자서 들기도 힘들고.
The industry has tried making larger Onggi with plaster molds, but it is said that the Onggi cracks mid-production, unable to endure the drying and firing processes. Even in this age of high technology, the traditional method is the only way to make large Onggi. This is wherein lies the viability of traditional Onggi. there was another unexpected limitation to mass-produced onggi. With KICET, the show's producers designed and made the first device capable of detecting the breathability of different types of onggi. A piece of onggi is placed at the center of a vacuum hose. Air is artificially injected through one end. Then, the movement of the air is examined. The volume of air that passes through indicates the breathability of a given piece of onggi. 13 different onggi in the market were tested for their breathability. But 5 of them did not breathe at all. No airflow was detected for 80 minutes.
미세 구조를 관찰을 하면 분명히 기공은 많은 양 존재를 하고 있습니다. 기공이 존재함에도 불구하고 숨을 쉬지 않는다고 하는 것은 결국 그들의 기공에 연결성이 없기 때문에 통기성을 발휘하지 않았다고 봅니다.
All 5 of the non-breathing onggi were formed with plaster molds and fired in gas kilns. However, onggi formed with plaster molds but fired in a traditional kiln, and onggi made by hand but fired in a gas kiln were found to be breathable. In short, the production method seems to determine the breathability of a given piece of onggi. A factory in Kagoshima Prefecture, Japan. Some 10,000 neatly aligned onggi catch the eye. Inside the onggi is vinegar, black drinking vinegar. The vinegar is stirred once every 2 to 3 days to aid fermentation. It takes over a year for vinegar to become properly fermented. Korean onggi makes this happen.
その発酵させるのに非常にいい、状態の壺なんですね。今までいろんなところの、亀壺を使用したんですが、一番いいものができます。韓国でキムチつけますね、この亀壺の中に。あれは非常にこう中で発酵させて、こう熟成させるのに一番適してますね。それと同じで、この黒酢をこう発酵させるのにも非常に適しているということで韓国の亀壺を使っております。
Only Korean onggi has been used for 7 generations since the factory's founding. Even in Japan, Korean onggi is used for food fermentation. Tamayama Shrine, Kagoshima Prefecture. Here, we met a special person with close ties to Korean onggi. The man bowing is Sim Soo-gwan, a famous ceramic artist in Japan and a 15th generation Sim. 400 years ago, Shim Soo-gwan's ancestors built this shrine to honor Dangun, the founding father of the Korean nation. The Shim family, taken to Japan during Hideyoshi's second invasion, has become a symbol of Japanese ceramics. But how exactly is the shim family related to Korean Onggi? The entrance to Shim's workshop resembles a traditional Korean gate. This is the cradle of Japanese ceramics, the very scene of history. On the day the Shim household is set to open the kiln, many Japanese gather to see in person the world-famous Shim Sugwan ceramics. There are exclamations every time pieces are brought out of the kiln. Albeit just small cups, the Japanese who have touched them are impressed. The Shim Sugwan household, now the center of the Satsuma ceramics industry, is idolized by Japanese ceramics lovers. However, it has not always been smooth sailing for the Shim family. The Dobira kiln, located right across from Shim's workshop, is the very kiln used by the household's founder, Shim Dang-gil. The kiln looks very familiar. It is a tube kiln, a traditional Korean kiln used to fire Onggi. Why did the Shim household initially use tube kilns? The producers made a startling discovery. Many Onggi had been excavated from the site of this kiln. A large number of bottles, jars, pots, and other everyday items had been unearthed, and they all looked familiar. This is when material evidence was unearthed, showing that the Shim household first made Onggi, not porcelain.
特にドビラ窯から発掘された遺物の古いタイプだと思われる遺物のは、現在、韓国等で発掘された、16世紀末ぐらいの、Onggiなどととってもそっくり全く一緒と言っていいほどの遺物です。ですからおそらく、ドビラ窯跡で作業していた、陶器を焼いていた人々は、朝鮮半島から来た陶工さんたちだったんじゃないかなということが分かってきました。せーの。
If so, how did the traditional Korean Onggi production method, transmitted to Japan during the Second Hideyoshi invasion, become Japanized? A cart and 4 adults are mobilized to move a massive Onggi. This is because the Onggi is extremely heavy. We looked at the Japanese production process of large Onggi. They also use clay coils, but the clay looks softer than the ones in Korea. The coil is also shorter. The coil is placed on the arm, and the vessel is raised one level at a time. Japanese Onggi potters build up only one level of clay coil a day. The vessel is raised one level and then dried, and the process is repeated a number of times. This is why it takes over 1 month to make a single piece of large Onggi. Like in Korea, they use the coil method of twisting the clay coils and pressing them into the vessel wall. There are differences too. In Korea, the vessel wall is smoothed by paddling. But the Japanese don't use paddling. They keep spinning the vessel and even out the surface by hand. They have a peculiar way of spinning the wheel as well. One person is on his back spinning the wheel with his feet. 2 Japanese men do what 1 Korean potter does alone.
日本各地にもありますけれども、イベントとかそういう感じで作ってるところはありますけども、大谷焼の場合は日常的に作ってます。そういうところは数少ないと思います。
The Japanese onggi production process is time-consuming. Moreover, not many workshops still standing know how to make real onggi. Japanese onggi do not have many uses, and this is leading to dwindling production. What is the status of onggi in China, the nation of ceramics? The large-scale structure made of many ceramic pieces indicates the current status of Chinese ceramics. Jingdajian People's Square in China. Befitting a region renowned for its ceramics, the streets are filled with them. Even the street lamps have ceramic columns. Stoplights, which regulate the busy downtown traffic, are decorated with ceramics. Ceramics is the main motif of the large mural depicting Jingdajian's export history. A ceramic instrumental band is giving a performance in Jingdajian Folk Museum of Ceramics. The band performs twice a day with ceramic instruments made of fired clay. Founded in 1985, the band invents new instruments every year. Jingdajian Porcelain Wholesale Market. The market reveals the current status of China's ceramics industry. With some 1,000 ceramic stores, it is China's biggest ceramics market. The ceramics here are sold not only throughout China, but are also exported worldwide. The production selection is diverse, with each store carrying something different from the next. Among the 1,000 or so stores, not a single one sold onggi. Where are China's onggi?
大概2000多年前，就是在汉代的时候呢，这个中国的浙江省，有个慈溪那一带，就说慈溪是一个地名，就说越窑嘛，它烧制出最早的这个原始瓷器，那么说它的坚固度啊和耐用啊，都比这个陶器呢要好得多，所以后来逐步的，就说这个陶瓷呢，瓷器就取代了这个陶器。
Tianbao in Jingdajian is a rural village far away from the city. After much asking around, the producers managed to find an onggi workshop. The onggi potter is massaging the clay like he is kneading dough. The dark clay looks very pasty, as though it lacks viscosity. When the clay is ready, it is placed on a wooden board. The clay is pounded with the fist and flattened into a slab. Not a single tool is used. The clay is kneaded only by human hands. Next, the potter prepares clay coils. Although thicker, they look just like the coils used to make Korean onggi. The potter works off a clay coil hoisted on his shoulder. This too looks familiar. It's identical to Korea's coil method. The only difference is the thickness of the coils. They look at least twice as thick. There is something that stands out. The potter does not use a wheel. Rather, he circles around the vessel as he works. The same applies when he puts on the finishing touches with a scraper. Working without a wheel is what distinguishes the Chinese Onggi production method from Korean and Japanese ones. The Chinese Onggi production method in the video footage is identical to Korean paddling. In Korea, paddling is done as the vessel wall is being built, but in China, paddling is done only after 2 to 3 days of drying because the clay is so soft. It was something we couldn't see in Tianbiao because the vessel hadn't dried. The way the rim is shaped is also similar, but it is a lot thicker than Korean Onggi. As in Japan, Onggi is rarely used in China. Even among the Chinese, Onggi production has become an exotic spectacle. The West started taking an interest in Korean Onggi a long while back. Im Lande der Morgenstil, made in 1925, is filled with a Westerner's admiration for Onggi. A traditional tube kiln sits on a steep slope. The kiln is fed by pine wood, considered the best firewood. Back then, there were many places where entire villages were engaged in Onggi production. The filmmaker, a German priest, appears in the film himself and explains the structure of the kiln and how Onggi are stacked in it. The last drawing is of firing holes. In the eyes of the West, did Korean women, carrying Onggi on their heads, look like stunt performers? The Smithsonian Institution National Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C. Boasting a history of 150 years, it is the world's largest general museum, always bustling with tourists. Korean traditional ceramics are displayed in one corner. From celadon porcelain to grayish-blue powdered celadon, the pieces exude the distinct beauty of Korean traditional ceramics. Displayed alongside the porcelain are none other than Korean Onggi. The name reads Onggi, which is the romanization of its Korean name. In other words, Onggi is considered a uniquely Korean vessel.
So the nature of Onggi has changed somewhat over time, but its importance to us as a historical document and as a historical record of a widespread type of ceramic and key to a very widespread type of subsistence base and social practice is important in itself.
Robert Sayers is a cultural anthropologist. In 1987, he published the very first book on Korean Onggi. The Smithsonian Museum listed Onggi as ONGGI, based on his book.
원양면, 저 이름은 조재건입니다. 58입니다. 제가 이거 처에 배우기는 뭐 우리가 참 과거에는 참 서로가 이거 뭐 먹고 일정 시대니까 뭐 참 학교도 제대로 못 나오고 그래가지고 내가 15살부터 이걸 배웠어.
Sayers interviews with Onggi potters, along with the slides he took himself, and the early 20th century postcards. These are all important cultural heritages, reminders of what Korea no longer has. Sayers, who undertook his second research in 1989, is writing his second book on Onggi.
I'm still working on the book some 20 years later, but it looks like it's coming to a conclusion. And that will kind of update this book, add more information that I've learned during that time. And it will have even more about the nature of the Onggi communities and the potters themselves.
The Onggi potter's touch turned an ordinary lump of clay into an Onggi in no time. The world marveled at his technique and the vessel's beauty. Onggi used to be an everyday vessel in Korea, China, and Japan. But in Japan and China, Onggi is retreating from everyday life. Korean Onggi, however, is carrying on its lineage with its superior storage function and breathability. But there remain challenges. In this age of mass production, the scientific standardization of Onggi has yet to be realized. Onggi has infinite potential. Ceramics have changed the course of human civilization once, and it can be done again, this time by brown earthenware. Figuring out how is a task that lies ahead. If Korean Onggi joins hands with science, it will certainly become the brown earthenware that rewrites the 21st century's history. This is the hope that Korean Onggi presently offers.